Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Unveil Paranormal. I hope everybody has having a great March and you all didn't drink too much yesterday for St. Patty's Day. Clarissa here, and we have a great show for you tonight. I'm really excited about this. My guest tonight does something a little bit different and unique, and I think it's awesome that they had agreed to come on the show with me tonight and chat. So do remember, if you do have questions for our guest tonight, to put them in the comment section, and we will definitely get those to them. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome. All right. So without further ado, I am going to pull up Natalie Mosley onto the show here. Everybody, welcome. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you tonight.
Well, I hope I'm worth the hype.
So, Natalie, we had just met literally 10 minutes ago, and I really love your vibe. So I'm really looking forward to getting to talk to you and interview you tonight. So this is great. So just so that we can start off here, if you just want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do in the paranormal, just in general.
I'm a bit random in the paranormal. I do a bit of everything. That's why I've always had trouble using labels. But I had horses for a very long time, and in trying to make them better, I've learned a lot of things because I'm not very conventional anyway. And my granddad taught me to dowse, and then I eventually ended up using crystals and homeopathy and herbs and pendulums and all sorts of things, and learned sports massage, trying to fix my horses. And eventually I found out that they were psychic. So that led me into animal communication, which I'm intermittently good at, but it depends on the animal. And then I ended up doing equine healing, and that was my first foray into the paranormal world, because both of my horses had entity attachments and spirits. And back in the day, there weren't really anybody to ask about things like that, because it was generally seen to be only like people that had problems like that. So I had to kind of figure it out for myself. So when I was doing the healing, I kind of felt more like an exorcist than a healer very often. Right. So yes, we learned about all that kind of thing. And then with dealing with the spirits and things, I then ended up in the sort of more paranormal realms from the spiritual angle. So, and when both my horses passed away a few years ago, I've then sort of ended up doing actual paranormal investigations, but I haven't done anything unofficial myself. Like, I don't have a group or anything. I've been on like about 5 different ghost hunts, but very often I just have to sit at home with a cup of tea and biscuits and wait for them to turn up anyway. So I've played about with EVPs and things like that, which I've had quite some interesting results with as well. So that's me in a sort of nutshell.
Very cool. Very cool. So before the horses, even as a child or anything like that, you never really had paranormal experiences?
Not specifically. I'd say I was probably empathic as a child, but I didn't see anything. That happened about 10 years ago when I was working in a haunted pub. And then all of a sudden I started seeing stuff. I always knew there was stuff around, and I could sort of like intuit that stuff was there sometimes, but I was terrified of ghosts as a child, terrified of horror films, wouldn't go near a Ouija board. I believed in ghosts, but never ever wanted to see one. So it was quite ironic when they started sort of interfering in my life. so yes, I was sort of like, I'd say I was empathic growing up, but not psychic, if that makes sense. And that's developed as I've gotten older, and to a greater or lesser degree of my horse has been forced on me a little bit. So, but I do see all sorts of things now.
So do you have would you say like, is it just the horses, or do you think it's just animals in general you have a strong connection with?
Animals were my first love, but this is going to sound really crazy. Since having goldfish, I've realised that you sort of assume that sort of dogs, cats, horses, they're psychic. You hear stories of them being angels and, healing themselves. And I after losing Monty, I sort of like was that worn out by it all. I thought, I'm just going to get some goldfish. Always wanted one. They'll be nice and easy and no trouble at all. And then I found out that they're actually, I think, one of the animals on the edge of evolving their consciousness. You know how the Buddhists believe that animals are very, very conscious, and they evolve spiritually, and they think that horses and dogs and things are very close to their next step in evolution.
Okay.
But I personally think that the goldfish should get in there as well, because they've been bred as pets for so long. Their proximity to humans, I think, is actually bumping their consciousness up. So I've just, again, lost my little goldfish, Binky, who I used to swim around his tank because he got swim bladder disease, so he couldn't swim very well. And I had a very, weirdly, very strong psychic connection with him. He sent me little pictures of where he came from and how he got here, and if he wanted to swim faster, I just kind of knew. And it's just like it was very strange. But yes, I think most animals are capable of a degree of consciousness and communication with us. It is true that the world is alive, I think. I think you just have to be willing to listen to it, basically.
Yeah.
But,
I love that. I am a huge animal lover of my own. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. Okay. I have 4, but I don't have enough time for really the 4. And I just, like, the connection I have with, like, specifically my one dog is 9. I've had him all his life. I mean, it just feels different than a connection with a pet I don't have. So it's kind of like you build that consciousness with those animals, especially if they're your pets, right?
Yeah, I think there is some animals that are more, you connect with more strongly. I mean, my first horse, Lancer, I would unequivocally say he was my soulmate. I mean, I have never loved anything like that horse, anything. And it's like you say, but the connection I had with him was just, there was no question. Like you say, you were getting that. We call it in the horse world, we call it your heart horse. Basically, it's basically your animal equivalent of your true love in a roundabout kind of way. And and I think, and it's like, if you have one in your life, you're lucky. If you have more than one, then you're blessed, like truly blessed. So yes, if there is one animal that you have such a strong connection with, then yes. And I think everybody's always got one animal in their life that does that.
That's awesome.
So yes, just you see it as a blessing. It's like to be honoured by their life, for them to come to you and be there for you and teach you as well it is quite an honour, really. Mm-hmm. It can be hard, but it is an honour at the same time. But so
does the horse, like, when you were connecting with them, did it feel like that you were given messages from them? Is it for the messages from them, or are other entities coming in through them and you're able to connect in that way?
I think it depends on the animal. I've had horses, because I used to work with horses as well. So it's like, I've had horses that were just like, I don't want to say dumb animals, but they just had no interest in people or communicating with, and they were just, this is what the job I do, and that's what I do, and that's that. And it's like, but then you get other horses, it's like some horses will give you a feeling of emotion, so you'd be very strong emotional broadcasters. You'd get other animals that were quite good at sending you pictures. So occasionally you'd get images and things in your head if they were trying to tell you something, and then you'd get other animals where you can almost hear their voice. It's like, I mean, my last horse, Monty, he was that clever, and you just knew exactly what he was saying when he looked at you. And it's like, and he understood everything you said to him, like literally everything you said to him. It's like when I was trimming his feet, I was like, get your foot off my stand, and he would literally move his foot off my stand. And there was one day where I was trimming his hoof, and I was like bent over, and he got hold of my belt and he was pulling me up by my belt.
Oh, yeah.
In the end, I was like, I cannot trim your hoof like this. Put your nose where I can see it and stop causing me trouble. And there was a pause, and then all of a sudden this like nose come down right alongside my face. And it's like, you know, while I was there sort of bent down with the rasp, trying to hit rasp hoof, and he put his nose right in front of me so that I could literally see his nose. And it was like, and of course I'd got my back to him at the time, and it's like, it was like, is that good enough for you? And it was just like, so, you know, but then again, like you say, both of my horses are quite strongly psychic, so they did understand words and things. But I mean, some horses, like I say, they'll give you pictures, or some will use language. I think sometimes with some animals there can be an intermediary. I've not really had that so much. Usually if I can't get anything off an animal, like I'll use dowsing or intuition, where, you know, you try and tune into them, and then so you sort of like pretend you're the animal and see if anything comes to mind. So it depends. It depends very much on the animal. I know a dog is very, very clear communicator, and there's no question when she looks at you, you know exactly what she wants without even having to do anything. But then other horses, it's like people with their psychic abilities, isn't it? Some of them are very strong, got very strong sixth sense, and others of them, like say, have to be, you know, they hear things. But I've always got it in a variety of ways. It depends on the horse and how used to they are to being heard as well. I think if they're not used to being heard on that level, they tend not to communicate on that level, but they are pretty capable of doing it between themselves. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's how I do it anyway. I don't know about other people and their animals, but
right. Well, you're the first that I think I've ever come across that has even spoken to me about any type of psychic connection with any type of animal. So I mean, it's very, I don't know if it's maybe not as common around here or what, but it's just, you know, and when you think back, I mean, here in America, we have like Native Americans, and they connected a lot with animals.
That is true, yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, it was kind of lost over time, that it's not happening as much around here, but maybe, you know, I don't know.
I think a lot of it, I think, is the Christian element.
Right.
Because God made man to have dominion over animals, I think people kind of lost the understanding that those animals were still sentient. So, I mean, you can have dominion over an animal because you're looking after it. So you, you know, in charge of where it goes and what it, you know, where it lives and everything. But I think that I think very often, unfortunately, almost like a mistranslation, we're supposed to be taking care of them, but instead we've just gone dumb beasts. And I think people, like you say, have forgotten, not that they can't, because everyone's got a story, they just tend not to take it seriously in the same way. Yeah, and like you say, with the Native Americans, they sort of like believe that the world is always talking to them. So it's a bit like with the spirits, isn't it? You know they're there, you just have to sit and listen. And people won't listen. And that is the one frustrating thing I find with people and their animals, is that they will not listen to their animals.
Right. Well, most people are pretty self-centered. You know what I mean? We won't say we're self-centered, but when it comes to animals or anything that we seem that's less than us, we don't tend to listen, you know. So
yeah, you're right.
But I do love that, you know, you found this connection with certain animals, and you're talking about this, because me personally, because I only read people, I've never tried to like psychically connect with any animals, but I do naturally pay attention to the animals that are surrounding me, not just the ones in the house, but like certain animals outside, like you know, so I actually pay attention, like, you know, they always have this, sorry, my dogs are running around, you can hear them. Like, you know, they say, like, if you see a cardinal, it's a loved one and stuff like that. Well, I pay attention to that stuff. You know, I pay attention to what kind of birds are around, mainly birds, sometimes squirrels and rabbits. We have a lot of those here, but I live in town, so I don't see, like, coyotes or anything like that, you know, that we would normally have. But yeah, some people pay attention to them, and sometimes I feel like there's a message. Like if I get a lot of crows or blackbirds in my yard, almost every time that means I have a change coming. And I linked to that years ago. I started noticing that. So sometimes I wonder if it's you're connecting with them on a way different level than I am. I'm just trying to see if it's a sign, a symbol for something, but you're actually connecting with them. And I think that's awesome.
I don't know. It does sound like you're sort of you get in there. It's like, I mean, it's quite interesting sometimes because, like I say, I in the UK we've got the robin redbreast, and a lot of our folklore is that the robin is a soul that's passed on that's saying hello.
Okay.
And very, very often I will get a robin that will just sit on the fence and it will stare at me through the window until I've acknowledged it. And it's like, but there was a bird singing in the hedge one day when I was out for a walk, and I just looked at it and I stood there listening to it, and I just went, "That is the most beautiful song I've ever heard." And the bird looked at me, he stopped singing, freaked out, and flew off. It's like nobody's ever said that to me before, and he just went really shy. But yeah, it is. I find the symbolism thing with owls. How there's a connection between owls and ETs.
Oh, really?
Apparently. I tend to find that when I'm out for a walk in the woods, I very often will hear an owl when I'm in a particularly sort of spooky, unpleasant area. And so I tend to associate, if the wind gets up, the trees creak, and I hear an owl, that is a message that there's something there, that there's an energy there that's not so nice. And it's kind of like warning me. So whenever, like I say, if I hear owls, I'm always a little bit on edge. But like you say, they will sort of, the symbolism of them is also, it is quite strong. You don't just have to communicate with them. They'll talk to you through metaphor. I mean, when my horse Mons was going to pass over, I had so many signs from the natural world that he was going to pass. They were hammering me for months and months and months about it. So I knew it was going to happen anyway. I just didn't want it to happen. But I was seeing herons a lot and barn owls. And barn owls are supposed to be associated with souls and death. And so are herons. Well, they are in the UK anyway. I don't know about the USA. And I was seeing them over his field, flying past. I was seeing them everywhere. I've got a Druid Oracle card deck, and every time I was thinking about Monty, I'd pull the heron card. And so they do have the natural world works in layers, depending upon what level of layer. You sound like in a few years' time you might well be having conversations with them.
I after this, I'm gonna go sit down with my pup and see if I can chat with him. Seriously, this is interesting to me. I love it.
I don't know if you've noticed with dogs as well. They talk with their eyes. If they want you to do something, they'll look at you and look at what they want.
My dog does that all the time. All the time.
Yeah, my mum's dog will. He won't communicate psychically. He's like, you can figure it out. But he'll look at you, look at the door, look at you again, and then raise his eyebrows as if to say, have you got it yet?
I have my dog that's 9 years old. He's probably more in tune than my 7-year-old dog, for sure. Because my 7-year-old dog still acts like he's a puppy, and he just don't get it. But my 9-year-old dog, he really, him and I are like two peas in a pod. Like we just side by side, he's like a me.
Oh, that's really sweet. That is. It's like, what breed are they, your dogs?
Well, he is a Dachshund mix. But he's so fat, he looks like a potato.
Oh, bless him.
A little brown potato. And then my other dog is a terrier mix of some kind. I got him from a shelter, so I'm not sure exactly what he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, bless him. I heard that Dachshunds can be a bit, what's the word, untrainable?
Yeah.
It's like they tend to do what they want, and that's that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I've heard anyway. I don't know if it's true or not. But...
I've never owned a dachshund. I used to know he's a dachshund mix, so I don't know. Maybe the other part is good, you know. So I'm just sharing some of the comments here. Josh was talking about some of he has a raven who visits him daily and a family of owls. That's kind of crazy.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, after saying about the alien owl thing, he's got to watch himself. I know that, yeah. But no, owls they're amazing creatures. I think there's a very spiritual element to owls. And the same with ravens and crows as well. I mean, I went through a phase of getting quite a lot of crows, but I was going to go really esoteric here. I work with a variety of deities and angels, and it's like, and I keep having Odin, one of the Norse gods, and he keeps wanting to work with me, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure about this. And every time he wants to work with me, I'll see crows and ravens. Okay. So yes, we're in negotiations at the moment because I'm not 100% sure I want to work with him, but so you've got those associations as well, and like you say, the personal symbolism of them and the personal associations. So yeah, no, it's
yeah,
but yeah. So yes, it's a blessing if you've got animals that want to interact with you. So keep an eye on them.
Oh, I will. And Josh, I'm so glad to hear you still got your dachshund. Looks like he almost lost his dachshund 3 weeks ago. So.
Oh bless! Oh, you almost lost. Oh bless.
Yeah.
I hope they're all right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. We don't like that. We don't want to hear any sad puppy dog stories or horse stories or any of that.
You wait though. When they pass the spirit, they do not go away and they do not leave you alone. Never. They do that. I mean, my horses are months more than Lance, because I said to Lance, you're free now. You've done your job. Come back for me when I go. But other than that, do what you need to. But Monty's around a lot, and it's and I know he's around because I'll call my goldfish Monty, and none of them are called Monty, and I'll be like, he's letting me know he's there. So yeah, they it's not it's sad, but at the same time they're just like spirits. They don't if you're close to them, they don't really they come back. They don't leave. And if you dream about them after they've passed, they're talking to you as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of dreams when both of my horses passed that they were on the other side of a fence, or they're in a field just far away. So it's a bit like, when spirits cross over, they're just on. It's almost like they're in another room, and it's the same with horses. And I kept having dreams that they were in the field nearby, but I couldn't get into the field, and they were sort of like, so they were aware of me, I was aware of them, and I sort of interpreted that they were on the other side and couldn't get to me, and I was on this side of the fence, they were on that side of the fence, but I could still see them, and they were still there. And I dream about them every so often, even now, and it's been like 4 years for one, and I think 7 years for the other. So yes, and I know that they're still there. So it's not as sad as it could be if you know that. But yeah.
Hi, Sandy. Welcome.
Hiya. I can only just see the comments on my phone, so.
Oh, you can? You can't see the name?
I can see some of it, but it's like.
Okay, yeah, I'll usually read it off. We do have a question for you, it looks like. What are your thoughts of taking animals on an investigation or training them to investigate?
I don't know, really, because I think it depends on the animal. If you've got a particularly conscious animal and it wants to work with you, I mean, they already know the paranormal. They already know spirits. They see stuff. I mean, my horses saw stuff all the time. They saw stuff before I learned to, in a way, and it's like it can be quite useful. I mean, it depends on the animal. I'm really big on, because I believe animals have consciousness and their own free will, their own spiritual path, and their own choices. I believe that if an animal chooses to work with you on that level, then go for it. Just remember that you have a responsibility to protect them psychically on your investigation as much as you would protect somebody else. But it'd be interesting because I've often seen, like, and I know everyone hates ghost adventures, but he took his dog a couple of times. Zach Megan's had his took his dog on a couple of investigations.
Okay.
And I often wondered, like, if you had an animal with that connection, whether it would enhance it or not. And I would be very curious to see it. I've yet to meet a parapooch, but I'm sure there's a first time for everything. I mean, like I say, I know my horses used to react to spirits and things,
Right.
or not react in some cases actually. I freaked out, and my horse just carried on eating the grass. I took him for a walk on the yard, and I saw this person walking up the drive coming towards me, and I thought, that is not a real person, that is a spirit. And I very rarely see them as people. I usually see them as shadows or orbs or flashes of light. And I was standing there and I was thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm about to die because there's a ghost coming up the driveway. And my horse was just like eating the grass, looked at me and just went, oh, for God's sake, drama queen, and carried on eating. And I was just like, okay, if he's not freaked out, and I know he knows it's there because I know they can see them, I was like, I'm just going to stay calm. And I just stood there and I was just like watching it walk past me. And I later found out from one of the girls on the yard that she calls him the Phantom Farmer. And she says, oh, I've seen him around quite a lot at dusk. She says, I think he does the rounds. He comes up the drive, he goes down the drive, across the yard, around the fields. And so it was a nice corroboration as well, because I was like, I think I've just seen a ghost. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's the Phantom Farmer. We see him quite a bit in the evening at dusk. I said, yeah, that's when I saw him. So we knew, yeah, it was quite interesting. But it's nice when you get the corroboration. You know, you're not going mad, because it's very easy to think that you're going mad sometimes with this kind of with this kind of thing. So if you see something in your horse spooks, then you know there's something there as well. You know, and like you say,
for sure.
But it's
A lot of people do that with their dogs, their cats, you know, those animals that are in their own homes. I think Linda had mentioned something about her cat. Sensing like health issues and stuff like that, looks like. Does, you know, they can kind of tell you, which they have service dogs and service animals that's their job. They've trained them to do that.
Yes, I've heard about the dogs that can sniff out sort of certain diseases, aren't there? And I mean, it's like, I know with horses, I mean, very often they'll put the nose on somewhere where you're hurting, you know, and it's like they don't know that where you're hurting, but they'll very often put their nose on the area that's hurting. And it's it's like they are tuned into things like that. But
I know animals are really in tune with our emotions, but they're also in tune with our physical pains too. So, but I did want to make a comment on what you said. One thing I loved is that you had mentioned protecting your animal that you take with you. If you're going to take them on investigations, that is huge, because once again, are people thinking about that, you know, when they do take their pet? You know, probably not. And I think being strongly psychically connected to that animal is going to be important, because then you'll know if the dog or whatever is uncomfortable. You know, if you're just taking your spooky pup just because for shows or something. What I mean, that's not considering the dog. You know, you got to consider the dog and not traumatize them or anything like that. So I love that you mentioned protecting. You know, don't just take any dog. Like, be connected to them and make sure they're protected. I love that.
I only say that because I had to do it for my horses, because like they used to acquire stuff constantly, so I was having to clear and protect them twice a day. And when Lancer passed away, I didn't realise that while I was busy protecting him, he was also busy sending light to me. So when he passed, I noticed the absence of that light, and I didn't realise he was protecting me as much as I was protecting him, which was quite a revelation, to be honest, because you don't think that they can work on that level. So that was quite an eye-opener, to be honest, to learn that he had a spiritual sort of job in my healing as much as I had a job in his healing. So yes, there is that. But I think people don't really Yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe they don't consider it. I mean, it's a well-known phenomenon in the with exorcists and that, with when they're dealing with clients, that very often there's a fallout onto the animals. And it's like, so they very often recommend that you pray for protection of your animals as well as yourself and your family. And I like you say, I think it's something that it needs to be considered. I mean, I know a lot of paranormal investigators aren't woo-woo that way, but I think if you're going to involve an animal into it, it is worth considering.
Right.
Definitely worth considering.
So I actually have something I'm going to share with everyone. I have to give you a shout out here. So this was brought to my attention. Let me see if I can share. It's this. Hold on a second. This is for you. Okay. This one over here. Do you remember this?
Yes.
So I was talking to Jeremy, Jeremy, and I told him about you being on the show, and he told me about this, and I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. So I had to share it today on the show.
I did one for Nick as well, Nick Moulet.
Did you?
Yeah, I sent him one as well.
So this is Natalie's work, everybody. She did this for the 13th Dimension, who unfortunately we haven't seen on for the past couple weeks. But I did tell Jeremy I was going to share it.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy.
He was over the moon about this. He thought it was the most amazing thing anybody's ever done for him. So thank you. You made their day. You really did when you gave them that.
That's all right. I was so nervous when I sent it to them. I thought, oh, they're just going to go, yeah. And then, like, when Scott was like, oh, my God, this is, like, the best Christmas present ever. And then Jeremy was like, wow, it's amazing. And I was like, it's nice. I really appreciated their feedback from them. It was just really nice. And I'm still grateful to them for that now.
Yeah. I mean, talking with Jeremy, he loved it. He's like, oh, I know Natalie, you have to see what she did for us. And I was like, oh. So I had to share it because, 13th Dimension. Looks like Jeremy said they're talking about returning maybe soon. So
oh, cool. Yes, because we miss you. Yeah, we miss you guys off the airwaves.
Yeah, because the team things, they're all great people. I work side by side with them. And hi, Amanda, welcome. Yeah, Adrian says she's remembered when you did this.
Oh, yeah, it was back Christmas time. I sent it in his Christmas card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he thought it was great, so I had to share it because I just thought that was wonderful. I know I didn't want to run out of time before I got to share it. I love that.
Thank you.
So I guess what's next for you? Are you just going to continue to try and work with horses? Or are you going to try and span out to all sorts of types of different animals?
I'm not sure at the moment. I can say I was on hiatus for a while because I lost Lancer and Mons within 3 years of each other, and I'd had them both since they were babies. So it's like my entire life just disappeared. But just recently, like I say, with having the fish, I mean, the psychic lives of fish is quite strange. And that's quite fascinating. But at the moment, it's like, because I've over lockdown and everything, I've been spending so much time in the woods. I've been getting a lot more sort of elemental type involvement. I've seen. I wouldn't say it was a Bigfoot in our woods, because in the UK I don't think we have him, but I was walking in the woods and it was like, and the path ahead of me, there was like this huge 10-foot tall stick figure thing walked straight in front of me from one bit of the woods into another, and I was just like, what on earth is that? And it's like, it almost looked like, I don't know if you've seen Groot off Guardians of the Galaxy. He looked a little bit like just a tree man, and I couldn't decide. I was like, have I seen an English Sasquatch, or is that like a tree thing?
Yeah.
And in the woods near me, I was trying to make friends because I know I'm always being watched when I'm in there, and it's like it's not like a person thing because you never see anyone in the woods near me, and it's like but I know there's something there, so I was like kind of trying to make friends with it, but I think perhaps I was a bit too successful because it showed itself to me, and it was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. But I've been getting a lot of things in trees just lately. You know, when you go past a tree and you'll see a face and you look again and the face is gone. And I'm thinking, you know, and everyone goes on about pareidolia, but I think sometimes we see faces because there are faces there, and our brain sort of matrixes the spirit into a face. But you normally tell when it's not pareidolia because you'll look at a tree, see a face, look again, and the face is gone.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's quite strange. I mean, so I've been messing about with that. So tree spirits, and I took some photos of some trees up there, and when you actually zoom in on it, you can see like a little face in one of the cracks. And it's like, but I knew there was something there when I took the photo. So to actually sort of catch it was quite startling to start off with.
Right.
But since I sort of like been walking woods a little bit more, so I decided like the next time I went around is to like leave like little flowers and things around the woods, and like I'd only got horse treats in my pockets, to be fair, so I left horse treats everywhere. You know, it's like an offering. And since then I've seen like little glimmering lights, like little tiny Tinkerbell lights, which I've never seen before. So I'm thinking that perhaps, like, you know, nature's branching out from animals into, like, you know, the plant world, and you know, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping like, you know, nature itself will open up a little bit more, and perhaps I can get back to working with the earth energies a little bit more, because around here we've had a lot of mining, so the energy in this area is not particularly pleasant as a psychic person, because the energy fields have just been so messed up with the mining, and a lot of the elementals and spirits around here are not particularly happy. I think as a result. So I've the last year or so I've been kind of investigating how to sort of possibly help with that a little bit, just in my own personal, but it's about taking time, and I think it's like building confidence with the spirits around me to see if they'll talk to me enough to, you know, give me some ideas of what I might be able to do to help them if I can. So yeah. But yeah, no, I was sort of like, and like say, birds around me as well, getting quite a lot of birds and things. So I was trying to the psychic thing with the birds, but they're a little bit sort of, like I say, that Robin I spoke to sort of freaked out and flew off when I spoke to him. So some of them are like, what on earth? You know, people don't talk to us. But so yeah, no, I've got no specific direction at the moment. I'm just waiting to see like where I get sent, really, more than anything.
The other winged animal, well, not really an animal, an insect that I tend to see a lot, I pay attention to, are butterflies. Do you have any connection with butterflies at all?
I've not had a lot of dealing. I don't tend. Bees. I had bees a lot last year. Connection with bees.
Okay.
I've got a toad flax in front of my house that is like a wild plant, and I just let it grow because I didn't know what it was, and it flowers, and they're cute little flowers, and it turns out bees absolutely love them. And I was out there one day watering, and there was this bee trying to get at the flower, and I moved the plant by accident, and it actually turned around, faced me, backed me on the arm, and flew off in disgust.
Really?
Yeah, and I got this, again, really strong impression. I was like, what on earth did you do that for? I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to move the flower. It was an accident. So, so last year I got bee. I've not really... We don't get a lot of butterflies around here. Not in my area. So I've not had a lot to, because again, they're a symbol of the soul and everything, aren't they? As well, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So I've not had a lot. Do you have them sort of manifest you in a particular way, or is it just the fact that, you know, they grab your attention?
They just tend to grab my attention. Not as much as, like, I'll see cardinals quite a bit too, but butterflies specifically, to me, just grab my attention every time. Doesn't matter if there's just one random one flying by, I mean, and I'm focused on something else, I'll just, every time I just shift and like pay attention. And those are moments where I'm thinking like it's a hello or a message or something. So, you know, that's what really draws me as butterflies for some reason. So
have you ever had a message from them, or do you feel that there is a message, you just haven't figured out how to tap into it yet?
most of the time it's more of somebody's coming to say hello to me. And I don't think it's always relatives to me because, like I said, I'm a medium. So I think there's just a lot of people that have come by and say hello. Like I say hello to the butterfly like it's a person, you know? It's so strange.
Like a literal spirit flyby.
That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like it's a butterfly to me. It feels like it's a spirit to me as a person. Like you're connecting with them as the animal. And to me, they're just coming as people to me. So do you think like your horses are people, or do you think that they're horses and that's, or is spirit just flexible? Spirit is spirit. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it sits in, if it's animal or a person.
Well, like I say, I used to call Binky Monty when Monty was around. Binky's a goldfish, Monty was a horse. Yeah. And I know for sure that horses will come through other horses. Because my first horse, Lancer, I was up, after I lost him, I was up on my friend's yard with her horse, and he used to be kept with her horse. And her horse suddenly sort of turned around, looked at me, started chewing the rope exactly the way Lancer used to, and pawing the ground the way Lancer used to. And I just went, oh, hi, Lance. You know, and again, Lancer was a 14-hand Arabian pony, and her horse was a 16-hand Shire horse, a cart horse, massive cart horse. And I was just looked at, so they weren't even the same animal, but he'd never done that before. And I was like, that's my horse saying hello. And one of the ladies on the yard I was at, she lost an Arabian horse and got another horse. And again, it was a completely different horse. And the longer she had it, the more this horse developed the habits of the Arabian horse that she'd lost. Yeah. And we were talking about it one day, and she was like, I am convinced that my other horse is in that horse. You know, and it's like the soul's walked in and it's sort of expressing itself through that animal. So I could quite believe that other species can talk through different species, if that makes sense. So it could well be a spirit literally having a flyby on the back of the butterfly. So that's why you're picking up, and like you say, sometimes you'll see an animal and you'll know it's the animal, and then other times you look at that animal and what's looking back at you is not that animal. So yes, I would take it as, you know, like say you're interpreting it quite well, I think, by the sounds of it. It's like because I know a psychic that whenever his mum is around, I think he sees, I think it's yellow butterflies or blue butterflies. So it could well be. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah. We get a lot of white butterflies, like with white wings. I don't know what they're called, but we occasionally get like monarch butterflies that have like orange or brown, black colors. Those are the ones that catch my eye because I don't see those as often around here. So, you know.
They're very striking as well. Monarch butterflies, very striking.
Yeah. Grieve so much horses grieve so much they sensitive souls. You're gonna have to reword that. I don't know what he's saying.
Horses do grieve, but it depends on the horse. When I lost Lance, Mons was over the other side of the field, and I saw Lance's soul leave his body, and Monty neighed once as his soul left, and he wouldn't go and see the body after that, and he was quite upset about it for about a couple of months, and yet Lance had seen one of his pasture mates the vet came to one of his pasture mates, and he come in from the field so chilled out because he was like, now I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the animal. Some of them can be they'll give a final salute as they're off, and then they just, when I had a little mini Shetland that I was playing with, and he got liver failure, and I said to the owner, I'll come when the vet comes. And so she rang me one morning, and I went there, and the two other horses she was with, we were standing in the middle, and the two horses were standing sentinel either side. And when the vet came, they didn't move from their posts. And the vet came, and when, again, I saw his soul go, and the horses just sort of snorted, turned their backs on them, and walked away. And it was like they were standing guard, and then as soon as they knew that he was gone and he was safe, they walked away, and they were like, "That is done now." It's like, so yeah, so it does. They are very sensitive, but it depends on the horses to the grieving, whether they, whether they accept it or not. It's like horses, like people. I think some of them are more highly strung or more attached than others, and some know where their other half, their friends and herd mates have gone, so they're a lot more chilled about it because they're like, oh yeah, he's in spirit now with all the others.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's quite fascinating. When it sounds horrible to say it's fascinating with animals around death, but that when you're actually watching for it, they can do some very sentient things.
Yeah.
And it does make the process, like I say, it's sad, but it makes the process more beautiful in a weird kind of way, that they are honouring their past one. I had somebody else on my yard tell me the same thing. Their horse got, they were waiting for the vet, and all the 4 horses come down to the fence, and they were all standing there until the vet had been, and then once the vet had been again, they walked off. So yeah, really? I think that's what he means.
Yeah. But he says elephants are very psychic. I don't know. Are they? I know they're supposed to be really smart.
They have grieving rituals.
What?
They have grieving rituals.
Really?
Yes. I'm not an elephant expert, but from what I remember, they when one of theirs passes, they will cover them with branches, and then even after the body's gone, they will still visit the site of the passing of their herd mate. They've got very, very complex lives, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if they were extremely psychic, especially with each other. It's quite fascinating when you learn. Yeah, they are extremely sentient. From what I can tell, a bit like whales and dolphins and things. I think elephants are probably one of the most sentient animals, from what I can tell, or from what I've seen and read. So yeah, it makes it all the more tragic when you hear about the poaching and everything, because they have such complex social ties with each other, and like you say, the grieving rituals are actually quite profound. It's fascinating. But
invite Chantel or Shan.
She's got the horses, hasn't she? Out of South Africa.
That's wonderful. So we haven't really talked. We talked a lot about horses and stuff, but we haven't really got to talk about any of your investigating. So I'm actually going to keep with the theme here, but you've been on a few investigations. I know you've been to probably plenty of haunted places, but you've been on a few investigations. Have you come across any animals at any of the locations you've investigated that maybe had given you any messages or kind of help you understand what you're walking into? Like bats are really common in haunted locations. I hate bats, but you know.
The formal ghost hunts I've been on, no. I was in somebody's house once, and they'd got 2 dogs, and I was in the next room, and I heard something scratching on the door, and I thought, oh, it's one of the dogs. Yeah, one of the dogs.
My dog just did that.
Oh, is that what that was?
That's what that was.
Like, yeah, I hear you. Yes, and I went to open the door, and I swear there was like a brown Labrador And I thought, they don't have 3 dogs. And it's like, and I was like, that's a spirit dog.
Yeah.
And one of the, yeah.
Come on. It's okay. Let him in here. He's in here now.
Is he scratching? Is he?
Yeah. Come here. I don't know if he'll come over here though. He doesn't. He's not. He won't sit on my lap up on this chair.
Is he not? Is he camera shy?
It's the tubby dog, so it's kind of hard for him to get up here.
Oh, bless him.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can't make it up when they do what you're just talking about, can you? Yeah, so, hello.
My 9-year-old.
Hello.
He's a tubby.
He's a potato, isn't he?
Yeah, he is a potato.
Oh, bless him. He's like, I don't want to be on a talk show.
Yeah. He'll jump up here on the table and sit like cats do and stuff, so.
Yeah, you get some animals that'll photobomb anything.
Yeah.
It's like you get it in the fish tanks. It's like you try and take a photo of one fish and the other one always just comes into view. Yeah. It's just like photobombing. And it's right. Like, yeah. But no, on formal investigations, I've not seen any animals that I can think of, but I've seen spirit horses on yards, and I have seen a couple of spirit dogs.
Okay.
But they weren't. We tend to get spirit horses around a bit like, you know what you're saying about when one of the horses on the yard's going to pass, and we usually get like herds of spirit horses floating around, and we're like, okay, who's going? But it's never who you think it's going to be. Like again, one of the ladies on my yard, she got quite a herd, and she was like, one of her horses passed away, her first one, and it was like a bit of a connection with that one. And her mum went down and said, you got another horse? And she's like, no, why? And she goes, well, there's an extra set of legs in that field. It's like, I've counted like 9 horses and you've only supposed to have 8. And she was like, she says she went down, there was nothing there. And she reckons it was the spirit of one of her first ponies was hanging out with the herd, and her mum had seen the extra set of legs as he was like wandering around amongst them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've actually had any messages from spirit. You don't tend to see spirit animals very often as like ghosts, you know. Yeah. I think because they tend not to hang around the same way, I think they can come and go. Because they're more in tune with their life. They're not separate from it, so I think when they pass, you can know they're there. But I don't think they hang around in places and haunt them so much.
Right.
I have heard that I know somebody that was a care worker, and she said that very often, she says when somebody's sort of getting ready to pass over, she said they'll often see their pets first. Before their family.
Yeah.
And so you get spirit pets sort of floating around, and then you get, because very often you'll get family members that have passed that are around, and they'll start seeing their family members. And she says she's noticed that a lot of them will sort of like be petting their dog that has passed like a few years before them, and I said, well, that's really sweet, because at least now I know my horses will come for me when I go. For sure. And if it's not them, it'll be somebody else. But
so I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am curious, since we have our guest here. Like, do you feel anything with this one? Oh, jeez. Does he have a message? Do you have a message, Jazzy?
Yeah.
I think
no, look at that face. That tells you everything. It's like, I don't need to say anything. It's like, she thinks she knows stuff about us animals, but she doesn't really.
Oh, I believe you do. But
I'm not going to give her anything.
It makes sense for him to be stubborn, because he is.
I was about to say, he strikes me a little bit as one of those, I'm not going to do that. It's like
100%.
I know best anyway. It's like, who do you think you are?
I wake up in the morning and my other dog always has to go out. This dog will just sit there and grunt at me and lay there. I'm like, you gotta go out.
Yeah, it's like, it's too early. I'm not getting up.
Yeah. But I mean, he's 9. He's getting old. You can see all the gray on him and stuff. But I'm hoping he'll be around for a couple more years.
He looks like quite a character, to be honest.
He's a really good dog. I mean, he really is. Compared to his brother, my other dog's a pain.
Well, one of them has to be naughty, doesn't it? Otherwise, it would be boring.
Yeah, I know. All right,
I always wanted well-behaved animals, but I never got them.
Yeah, this one's been really good. I've only had about maybe one other dog that was as well-behaved as this one, and that was a pug I had. Yeah, and he died. He only lived till about the age of 2 because I ended up having a house fire and lost him. So
it's quite curious actually, because when you were asking me about him, I got this picture of this scrunched up, like almost bulldog face.
Do you think he's a reincarnation? Because I've had that thought. Like, maybe he's a reincarnation.
It could be. I know, like I said, I had a friend out in America, and she swore blind that her dog was a reincarnation of her other dog.
Really?
And, I do believe they come back. I think some of them will come back. When I worked on the stud farm, we had a couple of youngsters, and they just knew everything. We never had to teach them anything, and we were like, "You've been here before." And it's like, we swear some of them had been round before, and they're like, "Oh, I fancy being a horse again, I'll come back." And then you get some of them that did not look like horses, and you're like, "You were not a horse in your former life, were you?"
Yeah.
It's like, so it wouldn't surprise me. But like I say, that's the impression I got when you said it was just like this scrunched up little sort of like bulldogish type face, or like say a pug.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's either there, or he's either reincarnated, or he's there with him.
Right, yeah. I felt really guilty for years when my dog passed away, because I felt like it was my fault. It wasn't, because it was a house fire, but so yeah, I have many times thought about my pug when it comes to this guy. So who knows? I don't know why Jeremy's asking, but he asked if you're a wrestling fan.
No idea why he's asking me that.
Scott Wilson says they owe you a shirt.
Yes, you do. I was going to message you about that the other day and say, "Where's my shirt?" Promised me a 13th dimension shirt and didn't deliver.
Yeah.
It must have got the psychic vibes. I was thinking about it like literally yesterday. I thought, I'm going to message him and tell him he's in trouble.
Oh, where are you going? You're going to jump up there? You good? All right.
Oh, yeah. He says, "Yeah, I'm done now."
Yeah, I think it is.
I've said my bit. I'm done now.
Oh, goodness. Oh, what's that? Your hair reminds him of a wrestler who did the same thing.
Oh, I was there first.
I know nothing about wrestling, so I couldn't tell you who he's talking about.
I don't know. It's been like this for years. It's normally rainbow colours, to be fair, but I got lazy over lockdown. It's easier just to blonde it than it is to have it in 5 different colours. I used to play with it quite a lot.
Jeff Hardy? I don't know. I don't know wrestlers.
No, I don't. I haven't got a clue.
He died before he became consumed. It wasn't. Oh, he must be talking about my pug that I lost. Yeah, because I mean, he died of probably smoke inhalation. He died from the fire, but yeah.
Oh, bless him.
He was in his crate when the fire happened, so I just felt so bad because I thought, well, maybe if he wasn't in his crate, he could have been run somewhere else in the house, but yeah. Seth Rollins, I have no idea who that is. They must still be talking about wrestling.
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
I probably did. I claim dibs on the blonde hair.
Yeah. No, I don't know. They know they watch wrestling, so. All
I'm
right.
not really a big sports person, so we'll let them.
All right. Well, I do want to thank you again for coming on the show. We are just about out of time, Natalie. Huge, huge, huge thank you. Like, this has been one of the most interesting shows I've ever had because it's just, it's something that I don't know a lot about. And I think it's so great that you're doing something different than a lot of other people. And it sounds like you know exactly what you're doing too. So I know everybody's learning and growing as we go on, but I mean, it's just so interesting. You in general are so interesting. I love it. I'm so glad you're on here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So thanks again. Everybody, if you want, she does have a page I put in the description for Piney. Will you be if since you said Piney has passed, right? Will you be contributing to? Will you be featuring new fish?
Yes, I mean I'm still posting stuff in there, and the minnows are still getting into trouble. Okay. So I had to threaten them with the net and the other day because he was beating up his friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course Rusty and P have got the spaceship in their tank, so they have a lot of alien phenomena.
Oh, nice. I love it.
On that every so often.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm still contributing to it.
Awesome. So yeah, feel free to go follow her fish over there, and then also if you do like this content, you like what I see, you see my links below in the description. Be sure to follow. I would greatly appreciate it. Show some love to the networks that I also stream on. They would greatly appreciate it. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Welcome.